Hi, I'm Meridian and I'm here to talk about fear and what we do with fear. The first thing we have to know is that emotions are not the enemy. They're part of our kit of being human, and they all have their place that's very important in our lives. So, real fear, biological fear of a threat that's coming at us, is so important for our survival. Even animals use it all the time to flee or fight a threatening situation. So we cannot be afraid of fear. And we can't really take it away from our lives because it will always be there, because it's a biological thing. The problematic fear is not biological fear, since that's important for our survival. It's mental fear, because humans have this rare gift of imagination. So we can take a biological fear and extrapolate it into the future, thinking it might happen to us at any time. So, for example, we can imagine the fear of crashing in an airplane, even if we have never crashed in an airplane and we have flown our lives in perfect safety. Or we can imagine the fear of somebody coming up with a gun at us because we have seen this in movies or we have heard about it happen. So we can imagine that this could happen to us. And this becomes a mental fear. Also, the fears that we got as children, we extrapolate into the future and think they will happen again. So that's a fear that's not happening right now, that could be possible or not, but that it's not happening right now. So it's not biological. There is no bus coming at us. The plane is not crashing. It's something that we are imagining. So the first thing we have to do for fear is really recognize what we're afraid of. So point number one, we have to analyze this fear. See if it's a real fear or an imaginary, a mental fear. So if it's a real fear, please get away from that situation. There is no situation under which being under threat is acceptable. If it's possible, leave the situation. If it's not possible, well, you have to plan for it or do something in order to be safe. But mental fear is completely different. So once you know this fear is mental or imaginary, you have to do something different. The first thing you have to do, if it's something possible but not imminent, like for example, fear of earthquakes or fear of being mugged, you can plan for that. You can have a plan for exiting the building if there's an earthquake. You can have all your papers where they need to be if you live in a seismic zone like I do in Mexico City. Or you can have not go into dangerous places or have some kind of protection on you if you have to go into dangerous places in order not to get mugged. So you do a plan. For real fear that's not imminent but that could happen, you make a plan of what can you do to avoid this, or if it happens to you, what can you do? So that's the second stage of fear. The first one is biological, get out of there. The second one is real but not imminent. So you planned for it. And this plan has to be real, has to be very doable in the moment, and you have to be able to remember it. That way your mind can rest because now you know what to do in case of this happening. Okay? And the last stage of fear is something that happened to you in childhood. That's a belief that you have and that you're extrapolating into the future. So, for example, if while you were a child, you were physically abused, you were beaten, or you were threatened in any kind of way, you will project this into the future and you will be frightened of people doing this to you. Or if you were abandoned or whatever happened to you in childhood are fears that we imagine can happen to us in the future. And this fear we have to deal with by healing the inner child, because that child will not stop having the fear until it feels safe. So we're going to go and heal this child. We're going to do an exercise. It's a self-hypnosis exercise. I'm going to guide it for you, and then you can do it by yourself. But the idea is to go to that child and to make it feel safe and protected by you as an adult. Because if it was threatened as a kid, he or she didn't have the person there at the moment that would protect, that would do something for him. So now it needs to be you as an adult that goes to that child that got frightened. It did survive. You're here. So they did something right. So we're going to go and we're going to thank them for what they did because they could survive, and we're now there for them. So we need to be there for them at that moment and tell them that we're there for them. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in the exercise. It's a little hypnosis, and we're going to go into it right now. Thank you.